There's a form of loneliness that exists quietly beneath our everyday actions, concealed behind smiles, hidden under the reassuring cover of busy schedules. It's a feeling that doesn't shout or cry for help. Instead, it gently settles into your soul, gradually becoming a silent companion, one you didn't ask for, yet cannot seem to shake. It's not about the physical act of being alone, but rather the inner experience of feeling unseen, misunderstood, almost invisible in a crowded world. You find yourself quietly wondering if your absence would create even the slightest ripple, or if the depth of your joys and sorrows could ever be shared safely with another person. Gradually, without notice, this unseen solitude begins reshaping your perception, altering how you understand yourself and your place among others. Many assume solitude comes from detachment or indifference, yet often it springs from the opposite: deep empathy and heightened sensitivity. It belongs to those who feel too much, who perceive each hidden sadness in another's voice, who sense every concealed hesitation. Over time, their acute awareness makes closeness feel fragile, even threatening. Yet, here is the powerful revelation. Prolonged disconnection quietly shifts the balance of your inner world. Without meaningful relationships, your psyche begins interpreting isolation as danger. The soul aches, and eventually the body follows suit, manifesting emotional wounds as physical pains, a subtle tightening in your chest, sleepless nights filled with vague anxieties, and unsettling vigilance for threats that aren't truly there. Perhaps this is the hidden price we pay for losing authentic intimacy in an age abundant with shallow interactions. Perhaps human beings were never meant merely to be witnessed superficially, but instead meant to be deeply known. Could it be that, beneath our carefully constructed realities, what we truly crave is simply to feel genuinely understood? The roots of loneliness stretch deeply beneath the surface, growing quietly in the shadows of early experiences, often unnoticed until the ache becomes impossible to ignore. Those who walk the path of solitude rarely choose it consciously. Instead, they're gently guided there by subtle wounds, accumulated over a lifetime, small, quiet betrayals, invisible scars left by laughter in the wrong moments, or trust placed carelessly in the hands of another. As children, our hearts are tender, vulnerable. Each time we open ourselves, seeking validation or comfort, only to receive misunderstanding or rejection, a seed of caution is planted. Slowly, the mind constructs invisible walls, not from malice, but from the necessity of self-protection. Over the years, each tiny hurt accumulates, layering itself into a fortress built of quiet caution, until eventually we convince ourselves that we chose isolation freely, that solitude was our preferred state all along. For a while, solitude offers a comforting illusion of safety, a space where nothing and no one can harm you. Yet beneath that stillness, something restless and unresolved begins to stir, whispering reminders of a fundamental truth: that no matter how much peace solitude may promise, our hearts were never meant to thrive in isolation. Imagine a child reaching out for warmth, but repeatedly finding empty hands. Eventually, that child no longer extends their arms, not because the desire vanished, but because repeated disappointment taught them it's safer to remain alone. In psychology, this is a deep inner adaptation, a learned helplessness of the heart, an unconscious withdrawal born from repeated emotional bruising. Your mind internalizes these moments, associating the vulnerability of connection with inevitable pain, until even kindness feels threatening. One day you might find yourself standing silently at the edge of a gathering, wondering why you can't simply step forward. Internally, a voice quietly narrates all your past rejections, replaying every instance of misunderstanding or abandonment. It whispers, "Why risk another injury?" And so, you remain in that safe, quiet corner, guarded. watching life unfold from afar. Consider deeply now. When was the first moment your heart decided trust was too risky? How long has your true self been hidden behind these walls? Perhaps this isolation isn't a personal failure or flaw, but rather a deeply human response to invisible wounds that have yet to heal. Could it be that beneath your solitude lies not emptiness, but a silent cry to be gently rediscovered? You might quietly insist to yourself that solitude suits you, that your independence is a strength rather than a burden, yet somewhere far beneath the surface remains a quiet longing, a persistent ache for someone who simply understands, who perceives you clearly without the need for explanations or justifications. But curiously, the deeper your yearning, the further away connection appears. Loneliness has a strange power. It whispers gently, convincingly, that perhaps you aren't enough, not intriguing enough, not valuable enough, or simply too much for others to handle. Slowly, these whispers take root, evolving into an internal dialogue of self-rejection. To shield yourself from anticipated disappointment, you begin rejecting yourself first, withdrawing quietly into the comfort of isolation. This retreat isn't pride, it's protection, and often it manifests in ways others cannot detect. Externally, you may seem completely content, even joyful. Your face carries an easy smile, your work flows smoothly, your online persona radiates positivity. Yet inside, you exist in dual realities, one for public display and another hidden carefully, even from yourself. A reality where your heart stands behind a thick wall of glass, always observing but never fully participating. Consider for a moment the image of someone silently standing outside a lively celebration, visible through a foggy window. From the outside, everything looks perfect, inviting, effortless. Yet the person beyond the glass remains untouched by the warmth inside, their life experienced as a mere spectator. This distance often leads others to misunderstand, labeling you as detached, aloof, or even strange. But beneath the layers of protective distance, a quiet narrative of pain and disappointment emerges. Memories where your trust was given freely, yet met repeatedly with neglect or betrayal. This repeated hurt teaches the heart to associate intimacy with danger, openness with regret. Unconsciously, you create intricate defensive strategies. You minimize your needs, disguise your vulnerability, and build an emotional armor meant to guard you from further wounds. Yet, armor designed to protect often imprisons. In isolation, your emotional landscape shrinks. Thoughts echo in the chambers of your mind, unchallenged and unsoftened by external voices. Empathy, that essential human muscle shaped by interaction and emotional reciprocity, weakens when unused. You begin drifting quietly into emotional numbness, not by conscious choice, but as the heart's strategy for surviving the continual ache of unmet connection. Yet paradoxically, people who experience deep loneliness often hold friendship in extraordinary reverence. Precisely because genuine connection remains rare, each small gesture, each fleeting interaction becomes precious and symbolic, like fragments of a treasured but distant memory. You find yourself dissecting small interactions, interpreting glances and phrases for hidden meanings. This heightened sensitivity to social cues transforms into hyper-awareness. Every delayed reply, every ambiguous comment feels like quiet rejection. Thus, a cruel cycle emerges. Your protective caution reads as disinterest, causing others to withdraw, unknowingly confirming the original fear. But pause here and ask yourself, is your heart truly guarded for protection, or is it quietly imprisoned, longing desperately to rediscover trust? What if your walls weren't built to keep others out, but instead hold captive the very intimacy you secretly crave? When loneliness settles deeply into your heart, Even your sense of time begins to shift. Without someone to share your joys and struggles, days slowly merge, and the markers of ordinary life lose their meaning. Moments seem to linger heavily, stretching longer than they should, because without connection, you exist in an internal world disconnected from the natural rhythm of human exchange. Yet, within this quiet isolation lies the potential for profound transformation, if you allow it. There's a fundamental difference between solitude chosen and solitude imposed. Chosen solitude is a sanctuary, a gentle return to yourself, a chance to rediscover the quiet voice that speaks clearly when distractions fall away. Forced solitude, however, carries a quiet ache, whispering that perhaps you're unworthy of companionship. The critical task of healing loneliness begins in recognizing which type of solitude you're living in and gently shifting from isolation as punishment toward solitude as self-understanding. Consider friendship as a mirror, reflecting parts of you invisible when alone. Without it, self-perception can blur, your image of yourself fading quietly. Yet, those who've experienced deep loneliness often carry within them a powerful gift: heightened empathy, a profound sensitivity to the unseen emotions of others. They're often the first to notice when someone else feels excluded, quietly checking in precisely because they understand intimately how it feels to stand unnoticed. But here's the gentle paradox. Those who've been alone longest often possess the very traits needed to form profound connections. They value depth over surface interactions, truth over convenience. They've cultivated deep introspection, emotional intelligence, and profound self-awareness. Yet their greatest barrier to friendship remains the invisible walls they've built as protection, walls that once guarded their hearts, but now imprison them. Healing begins the moment you understand that loneliness isn't a permanent state. It's an invitation back to yourself. Real friendships grow best from self-acceptance, not from chasing validation. Connection requires courage, the courage to gently dismantle the barriers that once shielded your vulnerability. Each small step, a smile returned. An honest reply sent without second-guessing, saying yes when fear whispers no, softens the fortress you've built. This practice isn't about immediate change. It's about allowing life to touch you softly again, moment by moment. Friendship isn't born of perfection, but from the willingness to show up honestly and vulnerably, exactly as you are. Imagine relationships as gentle bridges between solitude and connection, built not from forced encounters, but from mutual recognition. When two souls look into each other's eyes and quietly realize, you felt it too. Loneliness is transformed from isolation into intimacy. If you're in solitude right now, know this truth: you are not forgotten or unworthy. You're simply in the midst of profound becoming, learning, growing, and quietly preparing yourself for connections that match your depth. The world awaits not the polished persona you show to survive, but the authentic presence beneath, quietly yearning for meaningful encounters. So, walk gently through your solitude. Speak kindly to yourself, remembering that your journey inward is not punishment, but preparation. When genuine friendship finally arrives, it will resonate with quiet clarity, offering not just company, but true understanding. If this reflection resonates with you, I invite you warmly to subscribe and explore more videos on this channel. Each is crafted with care, meant to guide, comfort, and inspire as you continue your gentle journey toward healing and self-discovery.